The National Prosecuting Authority is intensifying its efforts to get the Guptas back into South Africa. Interpol has issued red notices for Atul and Tony Gupta as well as their wives. This is all in an effort to extradite them to South Africa to face allegations of fraud and corruption. For more on this, I'm joined now by the NPA's Sindisiwe Seboka for an update on that situation. Sindisiwe, thank you for joining me. So how important is this step of getting this red notice issued by Interpol?
It's very important because it now means that as much as we've actually begun the process of extradition application for the UAE and India, we're not blind to the fact that they could be elsewhere in the world or could have moved when they heard that the extradition application had been sought. So the red notice essentially mean that the international police, if you were, wherever they have footprint across the world, barring one or two countries in Korea and so forth. It means that once they arrive in those particular countries, they can then be arrested, and then South Africa will be notified that these people or the people that we seek are in those particular countries, and then we're given a time frame of a plus minus 30 to 60 days, depending on the country, to then bring our extradition application to that country, where the extradition a case can then proceed in whatever country that they're in.
But at the same time, Cindy, while this is a big splashing headline, what I'm reading into this is that at this particular point, there isn't an extradition process that is on the go because from what you just said, you're thinking India, UAE is more likely to be the two countries we are likely to deal with when we are doing an extradition application and the court processes. But at this point, this red alert suggests that you are preparing yourself for the possibility that they could be anywhere in the world. This all means that there isn't an extradition process that has started as we speak.
Not quite, actually, Tulasizo. What we are saying as the investigating directorate, as of June already, we had submitted our extradition application to those two countries, the UAE and India. However, you will know that last month, while that was happening, that the UAE then came to South Africa, speaking with the diplomatic channels, the justice minister and so forth, to ratify the treaty between South Africa and the UAE. So what this essentially says in terms of process, we were then initially relying on the multilateral agreement, which was the United Nations Convention on Corruption, to bring the Guptas back through extradition. However, the treaty now, which was signed, only comes into effect on the 10th of July of this month, which then means that in terms of extradition processes, you can only then apply or use the treaty, which is a bilateral between the two states. So the application had already commenced. However, that put a spanner in the works, meaning that we now have to use a more direct approach as opposed to using the multilateral. But this has not fazed us one bit. What it essentially is saying is that, great, we have another more direct avenue to request the Gupta brothers to come back into the country. The reason that Advocate Grenier has opted that in the process of this we go the Interpol route is because you will know people of means can travel in and out of various jurisdictions without even being seen. So what we're saying is using as many avenues as possible to possibly get them back and then to start the extradition application of whatever other country that they would be in at that time. And
Sindisiwe, the irony of the Guptas facing extradition possibility from your side on the basis of this, I mean, you know, in the bigger scheme of things, when you talk about the egregious crimes that the Guptas are accused of in various ways in this country, 25 million rand seems like chump change. That irony isn't lost on me. Let me ask you why it is important in the context of this specific case for them to return to South Africa and face the charges along with the other co-accused.
It's principle, Tulasi's. If you are arrested for having stolen 10 rand and you actually appear before a court because of that 10 rand, irrespective of the fact that we do not have charges against you yet for the 100 million that you stole elsewhere. So what the ID is saying, more so led by Herman Grenier, is that we are dealing with these various cases on a bit by basis. What we find, we take to court. As long as it's solid and it will hold, it does not assist us to then go for the billions so written about if we do not have facts to back it up. But with this case, we're so sure about our case that we already concluded investigations. Today, the additional docket was handed over. Docket disclosure had begun from the 30th of June. Electronically, and a service in terms of the physical docket was handed over to the accused who are in the country to best prepare. So what she has been saying is that you cannot bring people to court on speculation. But what we know is they did put their hands into the cookie jar in this particular case.
Right, thank you for that. And a firm answer there from the NPA's investigating directorate spokesperson, that is Sindisiwe Seboka, saying that there are many legs of the investigation, possibilities of many, many other charges in as far as the Guptas are concerned, but they are, quote unquote, so sure of their case in this particular matter that they are moving ahead, full steam ahead in trying to get the Guptas extradited back to South Africa.